a lot is happening in the political spheres. The IEBC commissioners under fire. President William Ruto did suspend them last week and set up a tribunal led by appellate court judge Agre Muchelule, who are supposed to probe them with results expected a little later. But from the political world, the heat is so much that some of the commissioners have decided to exit the kitchen. That is, two commissioners have already, led by Vice Chair Juliana Cherera and also Justice Nyagaya, leaving two embattled commissioners. The question is, they have already resigned. Is there a need for a tribunal? Well, a lot of Kenyans have different and varied opinions, and we are supposed to be joined by an advocate of the High Court. We are hoping that he will still be making aid. That is Gibson Gisore, who is a constitutional lawyer, to help us put things into perspective as to what happens next. They have already exited office. The tribunal is set up. Two are still there. And also, another thing, we have by-elections in the offing, and what happens if we do not get a quorum? According to the Constitution, we have to have at least 3 commissioners for anything to happen at IEBC. We'll be putting all that into perspective, just a tip of the iceberg. Away from that, we have a lot happening in the country. We also have the latest entrant into the money markets, that is the hustler funds, and something that is happening every day is that we've been giving a real up-to-date information in regards to how much people have taken, how much has been saved, and more so, how are Kenyan taking, or what is the feel on the ground? Is the hustler fund really working? And also in the political sphere, we are looking at the executive. Well, yesterday President William Ruto was in that function at the Safari Park Hotel during the NCAJ report, the annual report, which was the inaugural report. Yesterday said that we do not have any dalliance with the judiciary. What we are doing is that we are actually trying to help them actualize. That's just some of the things that we'll be looking at in this first hour. I have a scientist in the studio, but before I introduce him in the second hour, it's all about the holidays. Almost 2 months holiday. That's a long time. A lot can happen. And looking at some of the things that we are witnessing, SGBV, I do remember even yesterday the CJ did talk about is that the age bracket is going down. So how do we protect our kids, and how do we ensure that we keep them busy so that they do not become empty minds, which are the devil's workshop? Well, that is a little bit later, but the state of the nation right now. My name is BenTroy Njue. Yes, Lenso Dingo has just joined us in the sign language interpretation, and also joining us is a scientist. Yes, but one thing he's also a governance expert. He knows a lot about what is happening in the political and social spheres in the country. He's not a new face. He's a resident analyst, Dr. Churchill Saoke. Dr. Churchill Saoke is also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We are hoping to be joined by an advocate of the High Court and a constitutional lawyer a little bit later. But first things first, let me introduce Churchill Saoke. Karibu sana, Doc.
Thank you so much, Ben. Good morning.
It's been a while.
I know.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
A lot has been happening, and maybe perhaps we can start with the IEBC. We have 4 commissioners who, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza, let's be honest enough. They want these guys out, and even the leader of majority said the best thing the commissioners can do to save in the taxpayers' money, to save Kenyans, all that, they just need to exit office. But even if they decide, all of them, the 4 of them, to just exit office, a lot of questions will be raised. What exactly transpired? I remember the Apex Court pronounced itself on the matter and said, indeed, there is some issues at the IEBC which they need to relook, or need to actually clear before we head to any other elections, which showed that there is issues, there is trouble at IEBC. But looking at what is currently transpiring, Kenyans want answers. What exactly happened? Is it the Cherera 4? Is it the other? the other three, what exactly happened? Kenyans want to know that, but they've just decided to exit office. And to save them, they say, to save them the anguish of going through a tribunal. I'd like to take your sentiments on the same.
Yes, thanks, Troy. First of all, it's important to appreciate that an electoral commission is a very important body for the democratic progress of any nation, and specifically when you look at Kenya being a leader in the region, the integrity of the electoral body reflects deeply the face of an electoral process, and by extension, the legitimacy of a government that comes into place. And therefore, of course, we've gone through an electoral period, extremely a divisive one, which of course ended into the Supreme Court. And the nation is of course have been divided on which side, or those who are supporting the Cherera 4 and those who are supporting the Chebukati 3. And I think in my opinion, I've held a very strong opinion that it's important that the country undertakes this process with a lot of sobriety and a lot of independence of thought, because the law is a very funny thing. One time the law favors you, another time that same law axes you. And institutions as well are also very dynamic. They tend to align themselves with systems and political, the politics of the day. With that in mind, even as the commission go through the tribunal, and of course the Cherera 4 being taken to the tribunal as had been recommended by JLAG, it's very important that process becomes one that puts the country first, in my opinion. Of course, there is still people who strongly believe that the Cherera 4 needs to go. There are those who still believe that they should stay. It's still within the line of the political divide as to whether you supported Azimio or you supported UDA, Kenya Kwanza. But you see, when we look at the commission with that divide, we lose sight of it all. We lose sight of it all.
And still on the same, when I remember back in 2007, we had the Samuel Kivuitu-led commission that used to be the ECK, Electoral Commission of Kenya. We had so much issues, and even the country was in the brink of anarchy because of the 2007 election. And everybody said these people need to go, and indeed he did go. Then we had Isaac Hassan, the interim independent electoral commission. We had the chicken gate scandal back then, and we said they have to go, and they did go. Then we enter the strong will, Chebukati. Remember, 2017. Chebukati must go. Chebukati must go. But he said, I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
And we still had issues as well.
So at least Chebukati has been able to stay, and the Cherera 4, maybe they are seeing that, like the two of them who have resigned, they already have analyzed and seen that there is no strong political will to support their position or their stance as is, and that maybe the process that they want to go through in the tribunal is already predetermined. So maybe that's their thinking. And so they think that maybe the best thing is to resign and not to face the tribunal as a commissioner. So because if they think that the process is already predetermined, then it is needless to present yourself before it.
And looking at the political sphere, let's just be very honest. Their goose is cooked. Looking at this report, after the JLAC report, the report by the tribunal will end up in parliament. And if a vote is going to be taken, and looking at the sides, Kenya Kwanza has the numbers. Looking at what the leader of majority said, they need to go. So it's more or less we have a predetermined outcome. And unfortunately, we have politicized the IEBC to quite deep levels, if you ask me.
I think maybe it would have been important if the if the members of parliament would have approached the JLAG by bringing the whole commission, bring the whole commission into sort of like trial, in my opinion, because
all of them,
yes, exactly, because that then would have sort of it would have sort of removed the perception of witch hunt, because you see, those who are for the Cherera 4 are because they think that there is witch hunt. They're being witch hunted because they never supported the regime. But and then even if they were wrong, even if the 4 were wrong, then that perception still makes us to lose sight of the objectivity. All right. The fact is, the judiciary, which holds highest level of integrity in terms of decision making and administration of justice in this country, has already alluded to the fact that there are certain things that need to be done in the IEBC. And for that to be undertaken, objectivity of the process has to be very held with sanctity. And you have to approach the commission with the perspective that nobody was right and nobody was wrong. We just need to make things right for our country, as had been recommended by the judiciary.
And indeed, and a constitutional lawyer would have really assisted us unpack this, but it's something that Kenyans are keeping a close eye on. We have the Cherera 4 and we have, for lack of a better word, and the Chebukati 3, of which, remember, they are all supposed to exit office in the next couple of days. We have by-elections, and 2 have already resigned. So if 2 resign, we have 3 commissioners who are all exiting office. Could we be staring at a constitutional crisis at the IEBC? And
those are the issues that the country must look at. And that's why I'm looking at it from objectivity perspective. Because, of course, the fears as to why maybe from within political circles, why the quarters would want Cherera 4 to go, is because they would hold institutional memory which would influence future administrative processes of the commission, just the same way Chebukati and his 2 colleagues did, where they were able to influence a lot of things to an extent that by the time the rest of the other people come, they have no option but just to move through with whatever has already been laid down. So those kind of fears are the ones that maybe are being alluded to in certain quarters, that are making the need to accelerate the process of removal of some of the 4 commissioners, so that they do not have control of the commission when the other 3 exits. Remember that once the 3 other commissioners exits, the time frame for having filling those gaps is not going to be a short time. It's going to take some little bit of time. And within that frame of time, a lot of things can happen within a commission. Even that can be brought out of what happened. The things that maybe are being held in, that should not come out to the public. So there's a lot of fears that could be the undercurrent of what is currently happening. And of course, the Cherera 4, or maybe when you just have maybe 2 commissioners, you remember that there were some by-elections that were held by the three commissioners before. So we still are likely still to have even the 2 still hold some of the elections. And because I don't expect, in my opinion, we will not really expect a constitutional crisis. That will be too much to say, because there is already a government in place. There are systems that can be able to fill certain gaps. Because I think that just the constituencies where we do not have MPs or we do not have MCAs, those are the ones that you need a commission to fill. But you see, a constitutional crisis will be one that we don't have a president, we don't have a government. We have a government in place.
And looking at the 3, everyone, mostly the Kenya Kwanza divide want the 4 out, and they have made that numerous times. And if at all they are going to go, remember, we had the Supreme Court, the apex court in the country, talked about IEBC. They really need to keep their house in order. They never talked about commissioners resigning or anything. The court was actually pronounced itself that a lot of reforms are needed at the IEBC. But if at all the reforms that will be called out will be exiting of office since the time of Kivuito of 2007 till now, when are we going to be having a solid IEBC that commissioners will now be taking the work with some fear is that this process could be politicized and I could be exiting office even before my 6-year permanent one term is there. Could we be setting that precedent?
You know, those are the things that, from where I stand, I will strongly believe that, and I've always believed that democracy is a work in progress. And when you look at all those transitions that have happened all through those commissions, a lot of reform work have been undertaken in the commission. To an extent, remember there were times when ballot papers could get lost within, you know, they could be thrown into the sugarcane plantations and the tea plantations, and new ballot papers arrive in the city. There were times when some could be hijacked along the way. There are some times when even returning officers could be locked up for some time. But then, right now, we are now talking about ballot papers, or I mean Form 34As and Bs being changed somewhere if it really happened within technology. So we have advanced in many ways. And I think as time continues, Kenyans are more vigilant. And the more vigilant we are, the more we are building our democratic process. And that vigilance is very significant. And, you know, it will be interesting to see, of course, the opposition has alluded to the fact that they want to bring out bare what happened during the election. All these are part and parcel of making our democracy better. So that, remember, the sanctity of democracy is when your vote counts. And that is the desire and the aspiration of every democracy. So we are advancing towards that direction through all these reform processes. It is part and parcel of the desire of the Kenyan people to get the sanctity of the Kenyan vote. So we should support it. We should always support it, as you know, whenever it comes, but with a lot of objectivity.
Do you believe the 6-year one term is appropriate, or maybe we should have like we usually do 3 years renewable contract or something, because there is a 6 years and that's it, you're gone? You know, that could be challenged a lot, because if after 3 years you haven't delivered, whether you in scandal or not, it's quite different from a 6-year non-renewable term.
You know, I think from my engagement in political processes, one of the things I've come to realize is that sometimes the political elite tend to they overemphasize on the commission, the commissioners themselves, and forget that the commissioners lead a commission. And when an electoral process becomes faulty or it becomes successful, it's not just the commissioners, but the whole commission, which comprises of the secretariat and a host of team of people who are working within the grassroots to deliver an electoral process that is free, fair, and verifiable. And I think that for quite some time, there has always been, you know, the whole quest of changing commissioners, it blinds us from where the problem is. Because the commissioners are up here. But what happens beyond that, down into the clerks and the clerks and the returning officers and all those people, what happens? What has been their role in making the electoral process good or bad? So those kind of interrogations are what I think will objectively even help advance this much better. Because if we leave it to the commissioners themselves only, then it means that you're blinded to the real truth, because the devil is in the details. Exactly.
Wow. Well, we are keeping a keen eye on the IEBC tribunal, and still on matters touching on polls. And I believe yesterday the president didn't pronounce himself in regards to the judiciary. He mentioned and said that I'm attending all these judiciary functions because I want to assist them in executing their mandate and clearing the air by saying that he's never even made a single call to anyone in the judiciary to tell them this is what I want you to do. But looking at even the tabloids and looking at the social media, people are talking about these people, what exactly is happening between the executive and the judiciary. But the president even made a joke yesterday saying that my friend, the president of LSK, Eric Theuri, took him to court a week ago in regards to the PS nomination list and say that if I'm wrong and if the court pronounce themselves on the same, then well, anybody could be wrong, anybody could be right. But people are uncomfortable about the dalliance between the executive and the judiciary.
People are right to be worried about that dalliance in terms of, because you see the constitution laid out the whole question of all the three government arms being independent in their decision making. But the independence does not necessarily mean that you got to sit somewhere in three stones and not meet on points of interdependence and collaboration. It's about you understanding your mandate and ensuring that you execute your mandate as per the constitution, even within the frames of interdependence of government. And, you know, the president being a politician, it works in his best interest if the judiciary supports him, and he would act in any way that seduces the judiciary to be the friend of the executive. So he's right to do whatever he's doing. It is upon the judiciary to ensure that they know how far they can be able to go. Okay? Because they are the custodians of the law. And they can be able to say that, you know what, okay, the executive, we are working, we have very good working frames. But I think on this one, you are wrong. On this one, you are wrong. So it's still upon the judiciary to still look at how far the executive is coming and ask themselves, do you want to give in or do you want to step back and stand on what is right? Because as a, you know, it's just the same way as a politician. When a politician comes to you, he wants your vote.
Yes.
Is the politician wrong to come and ask you for your vote? No. He's not wrong. It is up to you, the owner of that vote, to say, I'm giving you the vote or I'm not giving you the vote. So that is what is happening. The president is just creating a working relationship with the judiciary. It is upon the judiciary to ensure that that working relationship does not jeopardize the execution of its mandate. Because they have to be the custodians of the law. If they are making any ruling, they have to make it in the interest of Kenyans, irrespective. Because you see, for example, funding of the judiciary, it is not something that should come because you have a cordial relationship with the executive. It is the responsibility of government to fund every arms of government. So if you take that as a favor, then you miss the point. So that's what I think. It's upon the judiciary and all the other arms of government to see how far can they be able to go to defend the Constitution of Kenya. Because in the ultimate end, that is what now Kenyans will define them for. Otherwise, the president being good to the judiciary, the president being good to the legislator, it is in his right to do that.
All right. And away from that, let us look at the Hustler Fund. It was launched sometimes last week, and Kenyans have quite embraced it, looking at the digits that we've been given by the ministry or by the government in regards to how much money is being taken each and every day. We've already hit the over 1 billion shillings, but a lot of things have emerged. I actually tried the star 254 hash and followed the prompts, but okay, they never got back. But I just wanted to know exactly how the Hustler Fund is working, and who wouldn't want some few coins. And the 2 weeks you have been out there, what are people talking about in regards to the Hustler Fund. And we would like to sample some of your responses on any of our social media platforms as we are live. Have you gotten it? How have you perceived it? And still on that, the element of saving fast. That is something that we've never experienced in any type of loan here in the country. Yeah.
I think that is one peculiar thing with the Hustler Fund. But then I've you know, there are still a few issues that, of course, people have raised. And one is the legal regime upon which the fund operates. Because you see, every government fund or institution must have a legal regime upon which it is laid, the foundation upon which it is laid. And there have been questions around that. Where is it? What is the, you know, it's like just like the Oduma card when it was initially started in the previous regime. It didn't have a legal regime. And then with that not being there, then it lays a foundation for fraudulency. Because if there is no that legal backing, then, you know, assuming somebody who has taken 1,000 shillings or has taken 500 shillings does not repay it, of course there are collaterals that have been created there through the platform. What can you do to that person? So that's one weakness that maybe as time goes by it will be sorted. The other thing is that, you know, when Kenyans want money, however small it is, trust me. I mean, people used to, Fuliza, when you look at Fuliza, people used to take Fuliza as small as 100 shillings. And the Fuliza was not necessarily meant maybe for you to do business or something, but maybe you want to pay up something and you don't have money at that time. So that was the need for Fuliza at that time. And I think that one of the biggest, one of the things that has become an antidote for the Hustler Fund, for most of the people who were anticipating, I have asked myself and I asked guys questions, those who felt disappointed about and had high expectations about Hustler Fund. I asked them, so what were you expecting? Were you expecting free money? And if it was free money, how much were you expecting out of it? Were you expecting 20,000, 10,000 free money?
Yes, a lot of people were expecting a lot of money. I know. To be very honest.
But now the challenge is, how sustainable is it to be given free money, 10,000, 20,000? How sustainable is it?
And remember, it's taxpayers' money.
Exactly. So I think that because of campaign promises, there were very high expectations of people about what a Hustler Fund would be. And I think it is because it was based on, we will bring a Hustler Fund that helps you to boost your businesses. And people will not expect 1,000 shillings or 500 shillings to be money for business.
Yes.
So I think that is one of the other antidote. So if it would have been repackaged to be something that cushions you, just like Fuliza. You know, Fuliza, people did not Fuliza to be a fund for establishing a business. So their expectations were lower. So I think that is the other thing. But I can tell you that however small it is, people have taken it, and you have seen through the reports.
Taken over 1 billion shillings.
Over 1 billion shillings
have been issues. And yes, indeed, you might receive the 500 shillings, the 600 shillings, the 1,000 shillings, which might not quite do exactly what you wanted. But looking at this money, this is 1 billion shillings that was not in the economy, and now it is in the economy. In as much as it is little in terms of what one wants to do with the money. This money has been pumped into the economy. Looking at what we are experiencing, recession, we have a lot of issues.
And you know,
it's a plus for the economy.
I agree in terms of the circulation of the money. And you know, the other thing that maybe even government should do, and I think they've been doing, is to accelerate just that ease of the economy again, is funding or paying up the bills that are not being paid. Okay? Because then that, however small it is, however small it is, paying it up, and you know, having money into the economy and circulation of funds become more. It then accelerates a lot of it then accelerates a lot of that circulation of funds. Then makes people to be able to access even more credit to in the populace. So in one way or another, that small money of 500 or 1,000 shillings as it has helped in circulation of funds, even if you cannot be able to use it to do anything. And the businesses are going to boom because people can be able to have pay. Remember right now, and for the past few days, people have been operating on defense. What I say, you know, you do not want, you fear expending, you fear spending, because you are being in a position where you are in a safety net. You have to fear, or you have to ensure that you are in a position where you can sustain yourself in case of any emergency, and it's not a good place for any people to be at any given time. So these kind of things, if they continue accelerating more transfers of funds into the economy, then it will make people to have economic power and even buying power, and the capacity of people to even begin to spend and invest.
And I believe this is the first kind of loan that someone is being given and you have to save. This is something that has not happened in the country in any platforms, or private or even the public sector, which more or less inculcates a saving culture that we do not have in the country. A lot of people are not saving. Would that be a boost? And as hustlers do their work, they know very well they have some extra coins somewhere.
I think people save. People do save. And when you look at what COVID did to people, what COVID did, most people have learned to be in safety net. It's just that the magnitude of the saving differs because of the times. You find that there is this difficulty in terms of, you know, what you need to purchase for your household and things like that. But people still, I believe that Kenyans still believe in saving. So what the government has done by putting a saving arm or a saving angle of the Hustler Fund is just to embed and reinforce the significance of the government to encourage people to save more and more.
Yes, and some people have raised queries and talking about the money that is given to the elderly.
Yeah.
They say haifiki, sometimes imechelewa, but the Hustler Fund is quite a well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
Which more or less people argue. Some people are arguing that it could be because of something that is coming through the political channel. And being one of the campaign promises, they would want it to be quite not only elaborate, but well-oiled. But and unfortunately, other funds, we've ever had other funds, Wezo, the Vijana, we've had a lot of funds, but we didn't see the government quite hands-on as we've seen on the Hustler Fund, despite the fact that the Hustler Fund has quite few limitations for anyone who wants that money.
You know, the reason is because, one, it was a huge political debt. Remember, when you look at the face of the Kenya Kwanza, all you see is it was a hustler. It was a hustler government formed by the hustler movement. And it's sort of like the face of this government. And so they really had to find a way of implementing it as fast as possible. And I think that maybe as time goes by, you know, the regime also wants political credit the shortest time possible, so that it can be able to entrench its legitimacy amongst the people that, you know what, we promised this, we are delivering. And then people then believe and trust your regime. And you know, on the sustainability, that is now where the government now has to find ways of institutionalizing this fund. Because you see, some of the other funds that you have mentioned, like Wezo Fund, you know, the elderly, the cash transfers of the elderly, that institutionalization sort of is one of the things that has made it to be, you know, those delays and things like that, because government bureaucracy. So we also expect, maybe as time goes by, we also expect that maybe as time goes by, as Hustler Fund is being institutionalized and they are learning from mistakes, remember they have just started it, they have maybe there are things that they are going to learn that need to be perfected. So as they perfect it and as they institutionalize it, as they establish processes, a lot of things are going to change. And maybe with time, even those other delays because of bureaucracy will arise as well.
All right. And we're still going to be touching a little bit more on the Hustler funds. Remember, the Kenya Kwanza are having their parliamentary group meeting right here in the capital. And we would want to know exactly what their plans. And remember, we are almost 100 days since Kenya Kwanza took over government as the fifth regime. And let me now bring in Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. You are a scholar. The reforms in the education sector and the issues that have been brought about by different stakeholders, including the parents, the domiciling of the junior secondary, because I wouldn't want my daughter actually to be in a secondary school at this moment that is quite far from where our home is. Issues of the cost have also come up. But the good thing is that the president did task the education ministry with actualizing the transition.
Yes, it was important that when I look at some of the recommendations that were made, I think they were based on the reality on the ground, on what really can be implemented. Because, you know, for example, as you very well have said, there were issues of infrastructure about, you know, the transition from, you know, the transition to secondary and to junior secondary, and having domiciled some of those secondaries into the existing secondaries, which would have necessitated the need to build more classrooms, and that would have been a tall over for government. So I think the recommendation of having the junior secondary being within the primary schools is a decision that is actually based on reality, based on what is possible, and it will make then the transition into the CBC curriculum much more easier and much more leaner, as would have been the chaos if you would have had to go and at a grade 6 you go and do selection of a school and have your children go very far away from home, and most parents were not very comfortable with that. So I think those recommendations are very realistic. It was very realistic, specifically that, and you know, the ministry now, the key thing now, and as one of the head teachers have said, is now the need to now bridge the infrastructure gap within the current primary schools, because you see, they might need to build more laboratories so that they don't share with the neighboring secondary school, as has been recommended.
And it's a good thing you've observed that, because they're talking about even if we have the classes, maybe things like laboratories will cost like 4 or 5 times the cost of just the 4 walls. And those are some of the things that have been mooted. Okay, hold the thought, and perhaps we can touch on that as we wind up in regards to what the Azimio leader Raila Odinga has talked about. The maandamanos, for lack of a better word, that are consultative meetings with Kenyans. But we do know very well in Kenya what exactly happens when we have maandamanos.
Well, he is a politician, and he maybe wants to send a message to the government so that it could be heard. And you know, the unfortunate thing is that, you know, some of those political rallies, you know, they are likely to wipe emotions of people and act in a manner that is not expected. So, you know, it's important to act with restraint. I think maybe it is too early for him to come out and begin to talk about government in you know, castigating government in that manner. It will be my advice that he allows his absence to be felt in the country, if he really believes that he was useful to the country. Because I think sometimes in leadership and in kingdomship, absence is very significant. It makes people to see value in you. And also in politics, that exit is significant. So the more he engages in this kind of public sport, it makes him it makes people begin seeing that, this is the same script that you have been doing, and it does not reflect on his stature.
And the current situation, economic situation in the country and around the world is quite dire. But before I give you a final word, Abednego Munyi, you say campaign monies are just, that is in regards to the Hustler Fund. Zeki, you say you're in. John Jora, he pesa ya kukula mandazi too. That is why I was saying that we have varied reactions on what Kenyans are perceiving the Hustler Fund. We have Paul Noah, you say you are on. Then Alfred Shua has talked about kuna mikora. Ikona app ya Hustler Fund inadanganya we send 183 to get over 50K. I believe this is the right moment for the government to ensure that they have good public should know exactly what to do. Just dial *254# and then follow the prompt. No apps, no sending any money. All right. To my opinion, we as youth, the limit is small for startups simply because there are business that we require over 2,000 for it to start up. Let them improve the limit. The limit has been mentioned a couple of days. Gone are those days you can start a business with even 100 bob. But as the situation now in the country and in the whole world, the amount of money the Hustler Fund is offering is too small to start up or run already started business. My view is that they should have given us a 5,000 shillings limit so that they can see how Kenyans can do wonders with that money. Amina Ali also say the limit is too small. At least they should have started the limit of about 2,000, which is fair enough to start a business. Just sampling some of the responses that you have sent on our social media platform. Doc, your last word as we round up.
Yes, I think, those are comments that I'm sure will inform how the government moves on with the fund moving forward. And I would just like to maybe emphasize the need for the government and the regime to begin seeing that they have the mandate to lead the people of Kenya, and take that sole mandate, especially to unite the country. I think that is very important, and that will then require that there's a lot of toning of language which is very significant for them to view that, we are now leading the whole country, and those who lost and those who won. And so there are certain sentiments that statesmanship requires that you don't proclaim in public, because it wounds specific people and massages other people's emotions. So I think that is what I would really want to emphasize and advise the political leadership. And it's not just the government, even the opposition as well. Because every action that we do today will deepen the divide more, and we will not be having a country. Kenyans want to go back to develop the country and work together, and not see each other that you're coming from this place, you're coming from this place, you voted this person, you voted this person. We want to take this country forward.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is a leadership and governance expert and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. It's always a pleasure to have you, Doc. Thank you so much for making time. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Indeed, that's where we wrap the first hour of News Check. But on the second hour, our kids are at home enjoying the holidays, 2 months holidays, some 2 months. But that is quite a long time, if you ask me, for so many things to happen, both good and bad. That is exactly what we'll be looking at in this second hour. We just have some few commercial break, and then we will be getting back to that conversation with a counseling psychologist for comments, suggestions. Where you are watching us, we are live, even on our social media platform. We'll be back in a minute.